Hello everybody, this is Comediac. Today I'm playing Mask of the Rose, a visual novel from Failbetter Games, the makers of Fallen London and Sunless Sea, set in that same universe. If you're not familiar, basically Victorian-era London is stolen by bats, brought underground, and there's all kinds of weird shit here. There's rubbery men, basically people just covered in tentacles, devils, like literal devils from hell, and so on. So let's just get right into it. This is a visual novel, large focus on romance and murder. There's going to be some murder mysteries to solve here, people to befriend or romance or just ignore entirely. It's all up to you. Let's get started. First foray into the Mask of the Rose is unlikely to end as happily as you might hope. Never mind, savor your successes, delight in your disasters, try again, wiser in the ways of the Neath. This okay? Didn't read that fast enough. In February 1862, with no warning at all, London fell through the surface of the earth. This was meant to be a year of progress in industry, the Great Expedition, trams, a new sewer system. Instead, we find ourselves dwelling in a cave. It's October now, the fire's been put out, bodies have been buried, but the future remains unimaginable, the time before impossibly distant. And now I get to choose my character. So, our past from before the fall, were we a dockworker's child, a child of the gentry, whatever, or a tailor. You can unlock other options by completing the game, like you can be a horse breaker's child, an undertaker, arcane academic. For now, let's see. It looks like dock workers, basically you're working class and also close to criminals. Could be interesting. Child of the gentry, so high society, and the constables, basically the exact opposite. Tailor seems to be a kind of a mix of the two, like their origins are humble, but they have contacts with high society, and also artists. Let's start with dockworkers, child. I want to be with the working class and criminals. That sounds good to me. See, my father worked the docks, unloading ships. My uncle was a sailor. We were on the right side of the law, but the same couldn't always be said for our friends. Down here, your name is whatever you say it is. Often there's no one left to remember who you used to be. Some people hold tight to the names they carried before, some reinvent themselves completely. Brother Morgan, no, that's a bit too religious for what I'm thinking here. I just want to be just a regular secretary. No. Comrade. Yeah, citizen's fine. And name, Morgan. Yeah, Morgan's fine. That suits me. Morgan to my friends, citizen to strangers. That's how I dressed even before London fell. Different person down here was above. Okay, so basically, I have not changed. I have changed. Or I have not changed, but I used to pretend to be someone else. Yeah, let's just say it's how I dressed even before London fell. Cameo, okay. So one of these best looks like a citizen to me. Hell? Okay, some kind of feathery. Yeah, you're way too fancy. Let's go with this one. Underneath, a true ally means everything. When I find people to be close to, I am open to friendship but no romantic emotions or physical intimacy. Friendship and physical intimacy but no romantic emotions. Friendship and romantic emotions, no physical intimacy. Whatever comes my way. Yeah, let's keep ourselves open. Both romantic feelings and physical connection. Friendship and matchmaking are possible too. Okay. Happy with this. Right now, I'm meant to be helping with the census, finding out who still lives in my neighborhood. The first census results are due tomorrow. If I turn them in, I get paid, the first money to come my way in nearly 2 months. If I don't, I'm going to disappoint Grizz badly. She knew I was in trouble, so she went out of her way to find me work with her own employers. She even gave me a badge to show my affiliation. Okay, so the front looks like Constable's badge with lion and unicorn. The back has some kind of symbol, hot to the touch. I keep with the clothes I have from before the fail and a few odd items I found more recently. Change the outfit. So the outfit is important in this game. What you wear is basically how you're presenting yourself to the world. So for example, right now I'm just wearing a basic shirt. It's not sophisticated look, not much of a look at all. Basically neutral. Come in here, I can now put on the sailor's top for my background. And I will look. Let's see, a contempt for landlubbers and toffs. Solidarity with one's own anniversary vocabulary of insult and mockery. And I look like I belong on the docks and might speak my mind too much. And this not only affects how other people think of you, it also affects what options you have in conversation. So wearing this will give me some options that not wearing it won't show up. Like, again, if I mentioned here, it says here, original vocabulary for insult and mockery, I'll be able to mock people more often wearing this. Lapel, you have the badge. So again, just that's an air of authority. It's a, I belong with ministry, I have power. Fake with vibrant corsage, basically just saying you're boasting and yelling. It's like, hey, I'm confident. That's all that is, really. Let's go ahead and wear the badge. Ah, I thought you were up here. She glances at the badge I'm wearing. I suppose you'd be glad you're thinking about the census, even if you didn't get around to leaving the house. I react to that the way I react to many things these days. Joke, talk about frightening things, or lie. Let's just turn into a joke. I thought I'd wait for a change in the weather. A lovely snow, perhaps? There's no sunshine down here. There are no yellow pea soup fogs. There's no rain except occasionally a fine mist. Londoners lost half our topics of conversation when we fell. Come tomorrow evening, we need to have at least a few census forms filled out. Or I'm going to be the one explaining to Mr. Pages. And if that happens, I'm not going to help you with your employment prospects again. Grizz works for the Ministry of Accounting and Recounting. It seems to agree with her. She wears trousers to work and comes home at all hours. It's very important to her being taken seriously by these employers. Next thing I do is characteristic 2. Give her a compliment, reassert control, be open and build trust, or rely on dark humor. Yeah, let's go for the dark humor. I like dark humor every now and then. Did your employers say whether I should also interview the squid-faced men? Or are they not included in the census? I believe they were invented by the newspapers, but if you happen to meet with any, by all means, record their names. What about the talking crows? Consider yourself at liberty to include any creature capable of telling you its name or occupation. What do you think of the questions? They're written in the most peculiar spiked handwriting, and there are punctures in the paper in random spots. Demonstrate that I've already read them, tease her as though I think it's her handwriting, or jokingly defend my reading ability. Let's, again, tell a joke. Are you saying you don't think I can read? This is not the usual writing. Here, try the questions on me. Say you just knocked on the door, and I have come to answer it. Yes, what do you want? Introduce myself as an agent of mystery, showing my badge. Good evening. On behalf of the Ministry of Accounting and Recounting, I have a few questions. Oh, how lovely. I am so grateful these ministries are looking after us. Yeah, no one's going to act like that, so let's just be... I was going to say be sarcastic because I'm tempted to do that, but flirting? Excellent administrator. Nah, let's just be sarcastic. Like, even flirt, riffing on it. Like, excellent of the ministry. Come on. It's government. Yes, that is just what people will say. You ought to be on the stage. If I'd ever considered such a thing, my mother would have beaten the consideration right out of me again. Not at all the done thing in our circles. Well, go on. What's the first question? How many people live in this establishmentation? Is that a word? Establishmentation? My superiors are enthusiastic embellishers of the language. If you'd like, you can translate into questions that are more likely to be understood. Right. How many people live in this establishment? 4. A landlady, Miss Horatia Chapman, a young man named Archibald Reed, myself, and a 4th character, very disreputable. Suggest she might not be the picture of respectability herself, point out there used to be more lodgers, or joke that she's not counting the vermin. I like that one. You forget, our basement has more rats than Noah's Ark. More than 2, you mean? At the end of its voyage, I should have said. Sometimes I'm in the mood to keep chatting, and sometimes I want to get to the point. Yeah, let's linger over it. Is anyone in this establishment enamorificated or impassionated? What does this even mean? They're asking if anyone here is in love. Just ask that. Is anyone here in love? No. Teaser. She's sure about herself. Tease her about herself. Ask about herself. You are certain you're not concealing a deep dedication to someone. My betrothal was not of my choosing, and its end was a blessed relief. I am not carrying any feelings from that time. Has there been anyone else since? And there's no one else? No. At this moment, of course, Archie has to turn up. Archie's a medical student. He hadn't finished his training before the fall, but he has plenty of work now. Right after the fall, it was broken bones and cuts. Lately, there are fewer wounds and more diseases. I wondered where you were. Well, you should knock, greet him flirtatious. Now let's just guess. Archie, is something wrong downstairs? Has there been a new disaster? Not the kind you're thinking of. Out I went this morning to visit a patient, and what do I find pasted up on the wall? He holds up a broadsheet. There's a new decree from the Ministry of Cartography and Chirography that all maps and atlases are to be surrendered or put on the fire. It's your fault for making these rules, Grizz. Take a side or stay out of it? Yeah, no, I want to know what's going on. Yes, what is happening, Grizz? What's this about? You'd be asking your Mr. Pages about these maps. Yeah, I can't do a Scottish accent. I'm not even going to try. One must respect the law. None of us knows what is safe down here underneath. Most likely there are reasons you can't imagine. Morgan, please do collect at least a few census forms by tomorrow from whatever Londoners you are able to find. At the end of the day, I'll find you and we can take them to Mr. Page's together. That's our new goal. Delivered one filled census form to Mr. Page's. She gives me a long look before she goes. Well, next time I'll not come in without knocking. Might be I'll cough a few times so the two of you can separate. Jealous. Maybe she's interested. Where's her polite? Non-interest. Intimidate him into not being so nosy because of the bet. No, let's not intimidate him. I want to be his friend. At least, so far I do. Maybe he'll turn out to be an asshole. Yeah, that's contemplating a possibility of an interest. I suppose it's possible. She might have the look of being fierce, but if she was to choose someone and then her heart was to be broken, might be disappointment, or it might be meeting with a thing she couldn't plan. But she'd be sadder than a hanged cat. Sure, let's get his census done while we're at it. Why not? Save some time. Grizz has me gathering census pages for the ministry. Aye, Grizz told me it was some such thing. I meant to fill a page with answers to questions about you. Well, what questions would those be then? Yeah, simply ask you. You don't look like your heart is gladdened by true love, but I might have missed the signs. Are you engaged? Promised? Down here, there's no one. What about before February? There was a lass back home, and what did my mother do but promise me to her? Okay, I feel like that one might be suggesting he get with me. I don't want to do that just yet. Nah. Let's encourage him to go on. Sounds like a tale. What happened? It's not so uncommon, I think. My mother was friends with this lass's parents. They were getting on in years, and her not married, and of course the whole village knew her business. So me mother said she'd fix it up between us next time I were home, but I've not been back since. Seemed to me I ought to wait till I was finished with my studies. Might have better look to it. Question has stirred, recollecting she's not considered for a time. Is it bad to say I've not much thought of her since? She has very even teeth. What? My mother said overlapping teeth in a woman mean defiance, and gaps mean a light skirt. Unwelcome views on his no. No. Let's just laugh. Don't want to insult anyone. Yes. There are stranger theories I heard in the medical lecture hall. And plenty of constables who thought we catch the criminals that road. Oh, sure, let's learn more about his work. What do you do for money? Is your income all from seeing patients these days? Yeah, I did sell off a couple of my old atlases just today. Censored maps sell for a good price if you know the right buyer. Okay, so he has connections to criminals. Good. Good to know. Ferrets vermin eradication takes in more than just rats. If I'd met the like of you in Scotland, I might never have come to London. Okay, so he is interested, I guess. Laugh. Because I'm wearing this shirt that allows me to mock people. Is there really no option to just think of it later? Ah, well, whatever. Let's just, yeah, platonic intentions only. The thought hits me, but I don't show it. First, sleep or review the day in my journal. Let's review the day. 259 days since the fall. We're in the season of confessions. So you can get our idea of what goals we have. Go over to acquaintances. Relationship, my darkly witty self. And here's my history. So I moved to Chapman's 124 days before fall happened. Swore to never consume another bite of mushroom. And then broke it 2 days later. And Eskridge helped me find work. That was on 220. Okay. Romantic interest, passionate romance. Archie. Fellow lodger. That's all our relationship is at this point. Gave up any interest in Archie. Riz, adorable flirt. I mean, adorable, maybe. Okay. Was engaged, broke it off. We have Harjeet, a constable, the one to ask whenever I get lost or think I might be going to get lost. Day 0, mid-apocalypse. He was patrolling the neighborhood. And then Horatia, my landlady. Still owe her back rent. Oh boy. That's gonna be a thing. Lived the night of the fall in Horatia's basement. She looked after all her larger sins. Oh, okay, yeah, that's just a collection of all the conversations. Whoops. Oh, that's just okay. For a second, I thought that was some kind of a hey, you have an important thing here. No, it's just Slider. All right, so that is the end of the introduction. Go on to the next day. 6 days remain. The newspapers aren't what they used to be, but someone is still printing broadsheets these days. This morning's lies open on the table. Barrett's Menace Eradication seeks reliable employees unafraid of rats. But from what Archie said earlier, it seems like they may also be a black market, sort of. Or maybe I'm reading into it too much. Like those may have been two completely separate things just mentioned in the same breath. We'll find out, maybe. Here we go. So now we can recall the past and relive the fall of London. Will not cause time to pass, so we're going to want to do that. Get some good plot progression going here. I'm always reliving London's last night on the surface. I try to put it out of my head, but it's still there. The dimming of the sun at 3 in the afternoon, the sky turning the color of rust. The horrible bang and the cloud of dust from the direction of Westminster, the tolling of the bells. The horseman who rode down the street, liveried in the garb of the palace, shouting, "In Her Majesty's name, go indoors!" And then the sky was full of bats. More bats than I thought could exist in the world. Wheeling, shrieking, defecating. People went indoors then, if they'd ignore the choirs. Those that had no house crowded into the churches and onto the bridges. Even now, I don't understand why Parliament collapsed, how Her Majesty knew to send criers, or that so many bats would exist in the world. That is an excellent question. I vaguely recall something about in the other Fallen London universe games that the Queen actually sold London. I don't remember. I might be remembering it wrong, but yeah, I think this character who's aligned with the workers is going to be a little suspicious about the monarchy at this point. The palace had been shuttered since that day. The royal family do not emerge. Surely, if they had known this was coming, they would have departed London. It was only the city that fell. The rest of England, we assume, remains above. I reckon it's a tornado. I heard it's somewhat similar in the Welsh Hills back to 1760. What? Tornadoes don't normally have, but whatever. Now, light in the sky and a noise like a thunderclap. That's no tornado, love. It's a plague of Egypt. I don't know what kind of accent to even try to give her. I don't even know if I'm gonna keep up. I'll figure it out later. Let them talk and read before you know it. Yeah, let's not get annoying. The newspapers will tell us in the morning what it was. Leastwise, it'll make a good story for the letters home. Glasgow will be envious of our London fashions. Oh, she's Irish? Or wait, no, that's not Glasgow. Yeah, I'm not familiar with British geography. I'm American. What do you expect? Then the ground shook again. I believe we can blame Mr. Bazalgette's excavations digging about under London causing a seismic disturbance. And what did he find down there but a cave of 3 million bats? Is that what you reckon? There are stranger things beneath London. How do you know what? Do you often go underneath London? No, whatever. That was the beginning of it. We were down there for hours and hours. The sky darkened, and it didn't return to normal. Once around midnight, Grizz went upstairs and opened her door to the street, but she came right back down again. She said the cobbles were galloping about. It wasn't safe to walk outside. After that first bit, the memories collide and get confused. I have trouble keeping track of which one came first and which came later, and whether I'm imagining something. I spent a lot of days like this thinking back, trying to piece together bits of the puzzle. Oh, hey, Diz, I'm good. How are you, man? I've spent a lot of days like this, thinking back, trying to piece together bits of the puzzle. As if I could realize something that would make sense of it all. Okay. Let's venture out into London. We have the boarding house and we have Thrall Street. What options do we have here? So we can see whether Horatio needs anything, take a census with her, continue rummage with Grizz, or see whether Grizz and Archie need anything. But yeah, let's go ahead and knock out the census with Horatio. Worth to be mindful of how others will perceive me, what role I play, what I can and cannot say is constrained by my clothes. This was true before the fall, but it's even truer now. Names, identities, and relationships have all become so unsteady and unreliable. Horatio won't mind me in this. I find Horatio in the basement taking inventory of our supplies. The night London fell, all Horatio's lodgers gathered in the cellar. Horatio led the hymns while we waited for dawn. Around 3 in the afternoon, we admitted to ourselves that there wasn't going to be a dawn today or any other day. Hello, I trust you're keeping healthy. Since the fall, we've all taken to greeting one another as invalids on the verge of death. Badge makes clear I'm here for business, not for conversation. The Ministry of Accounting and Recounting have asked me to work on the census. I see. Simply ask whether she has many suitors, use the flirt. Let's just ask. Did you have many suitors when you were younger? The butcher at the corner asked me a few times to be his wife. Couldn't say I wasn't tempted. He had 7 children from his marriage before. I believe he was more attracted to the extra rooms in my house than to me. There's a woman who comes to the door just about every morning. Too many children, not enough food. Sometimes I have a penny or some old stew for her. Just listen. Don't want to rely on the masters. And this morning, I sat by the fire and didn't go to answer it. After a time, she stopped knocking and just stood sobbing on the doorstop. That better approach, tell her off. It wasn't really better before. Do a better approach. Couldn't you arrange something for her with the neighbors? Or find someone who could take her on? You know we barely eat as it is. Ask about work. You don't have any secret business besides running the household, do you? The house has been my business a long time now. My father left it to me. He bought it so I'd have a good place to live. Didn't want to leave it up to whether I'd find a husband. Best go tidy the parlor. Think about that later. One more errand today before supper. Okay. Let's go check out Thrall Street and take the scissors with Harjit. You pronounce the R on that? I'm not sure. Arjit admires duty, but does not always care for the ministry. It's hard to say what impression the badge makes on him. I'll keep this. The streets outside Miss Chapman's are not easy. Thanks to my family history, I know where to find the immigrant neighborhoods of London. Old synagogue, okay. But whenever I need to find more of them, it's Harjit who helps me. I have something for you if you want it. A nearly new Admiral's hat in perfectly good condition. Found it near the docks, no sign of the owner, and I can't wear it myself. Thought someone at Mrs. Chavson's might get use out of it. Perhaps the Lady Chrysilda. And with gold braid makes a person look respectable, representative of the Navy. Wearing it gives me a commanding, if slightly curmudgeonly presence. Sometimes inspired to say things I wouldn't otherwise. I have the feeling this particular hat would make me a bit gruff and commanding. Put a hat on my head, consider what to say. Thank you. Mutter ungraciously, influenced by the hat. Try the lapel flout. That's just mutter ungraciously, influenced by the hat. That sounds fun. I hope the Admiral wasn't afflicted with lice. Leave it in a cupboard for 2 weeks if it concerns you. You're welcome. Establish my authority with the census. Or just explain. Let's just explain. The Ministry of Accounting and Recounting have asked me to work on the census. I see. London was determined to collect everyone's name even before the fall. Change the peculiarity of the English. Yeah. There's a peculiarity of the English. You aren't the only ones to ever count your citizens. What do you wish to know? You live alone? At one time, I shared my lodgings. That was prior to the fall, but my former companion is missing. Just romantic connections. Are you married, or otherwise connected? This is not a matter to explain to most people. You and I have known one another for some time, however. I think you would hear me out kindly, but if you would rather not carry my secrets... Okay, don't let... I'll keep his confidence. I believe I know what is expected in these situations. Even before the fall, I would not have married. My companion was not a lady. He was an officer who came to the Punjab. We became acquainted, and then more than acquainted. I thought he and I would remain together throughout our lives. Followed him here, away from my own country and everything I knew, to the home of my former enemies. He promised me that it was worth the sacrifice. He said we would never be separated. We'll observe that he isn't here. Laugh is... No, come on. Truly morbid humor. I feel like a man who's coming to terms with the possibility that his love might be dead. Probably not the time for morbid humor. But I'm doing it anyway because fuck it. I see. I wait 2 beats. And I tell the one about the autophagic father. For a moment, no one speaks. There are so many things in my life that I share with no one. Things that are not secret or even private, but that are beyond companionship. The memory of my home, my faith, the intricate policies of the courts in Lahore, which I learned in childhood and cannot forget. Now I'm adding to all the empty buildings that I alone see. Do you have any such things of your own, in which communication entirely fails? Let's talk about my peculiar upbringing. Tell him about growing up at the water's edge, and about all the things and people who passed by. I tell him about the warehouse fires and spills at the tobacco docks. I speak of the year of the Great Stink and the misery of being so close to the Thames. All London experienced these things, but not the way my family did. I could mention them to anyone, and anyone would know what I was speaking of, but none of them would have endured them in the same ways we did. England is not always kind even to its own, it seems. Let's just keep going. If you've seen other cities, what do you think of ours? It has been taken by surprise, which serves it right. No, you deserve a better answer. I do not like the city London was, and I do not like the city London will become. In time, she'll remember her confidence and try to rule again, unless Lady Griselda and her type fail. But the cracked and lost parts of London now, this is a place to love. People have no choice but to meet as equals now and then. Darkly sympathetic? Sure, why not? Perhaps you'll be in luck and London will never recover. Jesus. The East India Company may be gone. The masters are in the bazaar, and the Queen in her palace. London will remember what she was. I should go, but you know where to find me. I am always here. Nearly time for supper. Yeah, let's change clothes. Let's not wear the badge to dinner. Keep the hat though. Riz is waiting for me. Whenever census forms you have ready, it is time to take them to Mr. Page's. I should have realized you were going to be doing that and kept the badge on. Oh well. I'm ready. I'm prepared. I sincerely hope that's true. Come with me. Once I've shown you how to reach the ministry, you can come back on your own and turn in others. Riz has me gather my papers. All 4 of them. With luck, Mr. Pages will decide to keep you on. With that, she leads me outside and down a side street that is no longer named. We tack through the city like a sailboat beating upwind. We never go straight at the bazaar. More often than not, it's hidden by some intervening roof, alternating starboard and port. But every time I look up, it stands closer. Finally, we find ourselves standing in its shadow, under its walls. That sigil there. It's a very interesting look. Before us is a low door that once, I think, belonged to a solicitor's office. Riz takes out a key made of something other than metal and unlocks that door. Behind the pile of papers, I've already sorted them 3 times. Mr. Pages is very particular about the ordering of documents. Now where is he gone? Usually he's here by this time of day. Ah, there you are, sir. We were just coming to bring you the census documents. A first installment of many, I'm sure. There's a tone in her voice somewhere between fondness and a nanny guiding an untutored child. Ignore the mood or don't. Let's don't. I watch her curiously. She doesn't meet my eye. Does she have feeling towards it? Affection? Regard for a very strange and demanding pet? Or is it something more heartfelt? Mr. Pages, may I present Morgan? Morgan, this is Mr. Pages. The whole Ministry of Accounting and Recounting is under Mr. Page's direction. Say it well back and make no sudden moves. That's probably the right approach to take with a master of the bazaar, but, acknowledge the introduction. In good health, then, are you? Fertilus with a sucon of mutilance. Which brings us to pressing. Oh, high voice. Oh, right, okay. What was that? Mr. Pages has been interviewing a Frenchman unhappily stranded on our shores before the fall. You can imagine how that might affect both mind and vocabulary. Wonder whether it was challenging for the Frenchman. Must have been. Yeah, it was just not sagely. Just right, you are, of course. No, high voice. Oh, God, no, I cannot do a high voice at all. What have you brought us? That I have to do. Stand over everything. Just here you go. Most Intertrigan? Okay. Shiny penny, newly minted, as a portrait on the back of someone who is certainly not the queen. The face on the back of the coin stares at me until the hair prickles on my neck. It reminds me of a debt owed, and I don't want to remember. And my breath hitches and slows and resumes. And I need to provide him with 7 total, including the one I just gave him and the other 3 I'm about to give him? Or just 7 new ones? We'll find out. Turns over a page. They just takes my penny from a jar, bringing my stash to 2. There are other coins in there, and a few things that aren't even coins. Buttons, pearls, probably false. A horse head carved from ivory or bone. We are grateful for your assistance. There are never too many papers. Turns over a page. Dix has been eagerly spent some time scanning it. Whatever it finds it considers impressive enough to offer 2 pennies. But it is, I think, disappointed all the same. There is something it is looking for that it cannot find. Mr. Page's pays 2 pennies. Okay. Puts it in the census pack in a stack of others much like it. Weights the stack down with a paperweight. If I look too hard at the paperweight, my eyes sting. Okay. The business of census is done for now. Perhaps I've earned a question. About why maps need to be outlawed. Let's ask about the maps, yeah. Why aren't we allowed to have maps and atlases anymore? We need them more than ever. London isn't a range where it used to be. I believe the ministry intends to resurvey the territory. In the meantime, it wouldn't do, to have people using fallacious maps. The territory of the Neath is anti-disbussificated. Undisposed? Okay. Indisposed? Toward lying still. What is that supposed to mean? I beg your pardon? I suppose it must be a reference to the seismic activity. Perhaps there's a concern that further events will disturb the arrangement of London streets. And now I think on it, in those circumstances, the existence of inaccurate maps might cause alarm. Perhaps better not to create in the population an expectation of consistent layout. Now, make a couple of remarks about how useful this will be, though she stopped short of asking whether I am in debt to Horatia. I haven't forgotten, though. Half the back rent. Okay. I mean, I got money. We can check. As we make our way back to Horatia's, Grizz asks me what I think of Mr. Pages. Tries to make it sound like an idly curious question. Make light of his tailoring challenges. Yeah, let's make jokes. I feel Mr. Pages must be a boon to robe makers throughout London. But that judged by the ink stains, she does not think he replaces his wardrobe terribly often. Speculate about his taste in gloves and boots. Before we go back inside the house, he reminds me, we have many more people in the neighborhood to survey for the census. You know how it's done now, so you can collect them and take them to Mr. Pages yourself. I have other duties, and I may not always be there, but Pages is, well, I'm certain you won't be harmed if you visit the Ministry on your own. Ask if she has feelings for him. Decide that she has feelings for him. Oh, deciding if I said I have a flirtatious interest. Oh, God. That is both a terrible idea and absolutely hilarious. Doing it. I'll be glad to pay a visit by myself. An opportunity, some might say. You're hired as a clerk, not, well, the word isn't in a lady's vocabulary. But don't go thinking you're hired for something you weren't. Mr. Page would probably be offended and blame me for hiring you on. Archie finds me upstairs after dinner. Okay? I cannot stop thinking on the Ministry of Cartography. There's something not right there. Let me show you what I'm thinking of. Sure, okay. Be my guest. You'll see what I have in mind in a moment. It's a way of sorting out my thoughts. When I started, it was to think through a treatment. But it's good for all sorts, stories, schemes, things that might be true, or things that don't have to be. He has bits of paper written over in his own handwriting. Okay. Welcome to story crafting. From time to time, you'll be making stories about things you discover underneath. Sometimes other people ask you to bring them a story. They might want a true account, or they might want fiction. Either way, you'll come here to create the story they want. This is a slot. Slots contain the elements of your story. This is a who slot. It contains a character. Select the slot to continue. These are all the character tokens you could currently put in the slot. As you meet more characters in the game, you'll gain more options. Select one of the tokens to fill a slot and continue. Let's bring in Mr. Pages. This is a story about Mr. Pages. You can select the slot again and choose someone else. Otherwise, continue. Sure. Characters can craft and be driven by motives, and these motives spur them to act. Tokens for actions and motives are represented by fragments of text rather than pictures. Assign a token to both. Mr. Page hopes for love, power, wealth, or unknown person. Let's say power. Action. Public affair. Secret affair. Employed and plotting. I mean, if you're hoping for power, yeah, plotting is a good way to get that, so. Well done. Let's continue. Not every story is a single-hander, of course. Commonly, a second character will feature a friend, an enemy, or a victim. Let's go with Grizz. Okay, second person needs to be different. The token of a character first marks the cross. If you assign that token slot, we'll vacate the first. Grizz. Sometimes two tokens can't be placed together because they don't make sense. More often, you can mix and match based on whatever you've learned about the world. Okay, so Mr. Page is a master of the bazaar, driven by a lust for power, engaged its lackey and factotum Grizz in nefarious schemes. Grizz was afraid of Mr. Pages. Okay, yeah, and this is locked. I cannot change that. This is explaining here. Action. Finally, sometimes you put an unknown into a slot. It means you think there's another possible answer, but you need to explore the world more to find out what it is. Building a story with some unknown elements gives you a hypothesis you can ask other characters about. Okay. Took unknown actions or obeyed. I mean, say she obeyed. Oh. The theory of obedience. You have a definite opinion about what happened. You get a message about a story completely that lets you know what kind of story you built. Whenever you're done working on a story, finished or not, you can leave the story cutting board and go tell other characters about your idea. You see how I'm coming at it? I'm trying to work out what Mr. Pages is about with the ministry. It's no use talking to Grizz, asking Grizz. You've seen that. Interesting. Okay. This page established a ministry rule forbidding mapping, then something happened, presumably, but what? Ah, okay, so Mitch, I think because I asked him about it, he knew that the Neath changed, so he knew that he changed, so he forbade mapping. The average Londoner. Okay. So they were gullible, so they obeyed. Page is desperate. That's okay. Okay. Well, because his commands whenever it was safe to do so, feeling Mr. Page did not mean the city well. It seemed best to create a bit of difficulty for those newcomers who access Lord's ministers. Alright. Okay. See, they were gullible, but resisted anyway. They just wouldn't do it anyway. It's just, that's how Londoners are. Let's just go with that. Let's see what happens from there. I don't care to have the things hidden from me for my own good. I'd rather know the truth of it and make up my mind what to do next. Not to mention that we need to learn the science of the Neath if we've any hope of doctoring down here. If you don't mind giving Mr. Pages all manner of stories about the people that live below, then you can go on with it. But if you'd rather another way to making your bread, I have a friend below who can take what we learn and put it about in the papers. I told them I knew someone who might be able to bring back a few secrets of the ministry. If you make up the questions you want to ask, you can investigate with anyone who might answer. Earn your pennies helping the citizens rather than these creatures in their blankets. Okay, bring him theories about the ministry. Okay. Is danger... Yeah, no, I'm joining. There's for truth. It sounds like it doesn't require upright penmanship. That makes it superior to Since's work right there. Don't it just? And the truth has its own value. I'm glad to hear you say so. It's no easy thing fighting the doubts on my own. With Horatia telling me I have the fidget, and Grit saying I should be quiet and trust our robe-wearing masters, I shall let you get your sleep. You feel free to come and talk with me any time. My own room's not big enough to turn about in, of course. You can find me in the parlor. Only in friendship. Make it insultingly clear I'm not interested even in friendship. Only friendship. I think well of you, but I don't want to give the wrong idea. If that's understood, I'd be happy to.